The next one is very interesting, titled, "My husband is really tight with money. What to do?" She says, "I need advice on my husband and work. I've been a stay-at-home mom for almost 3 years. I have an almost 3-year-old daughter and an almost 2-year-old son. My husband works very hard. He has a full-time job and then runs a business on his days off, so he's very busy. He is 100% the breadwinner, which is great. I consider myself very lucky to be able to stay home and raise my children without financial worry. But my husband is very strict with money. I admit we're doing great because of him, but because he earns the money, he basically dictates how it's spent. Don't get me wrong, he provides for us well. The kids and I don't go without anything we need, but my issue is that that's where it stops. He pays the bills and buys us what we need, but when it comes to mine and the children's wants, there's just no wiggle room. It's necessities or nothing. He earns a lot and saves around 2/3 of his paycheck each week. As we live way below our means, we have a tiny comfortable home, sound cars, a small mortgage, etc. Anyway, before I fell pregnant, we earned about the same wage. Our earning potential was on par, so we had so much freedom to do whatever we liked. But since I had children, he's completely knuckled down. He says he's saving for our future, an early retirement, and the chance to have our fun when the children are older. I admire and respect this a lot, but damn, a girl has wants. I want to get my hair done by a professional for once, buy a coffee when I'm out with the kids, hell, order fast food instead of cooking just once. We never eat out, we never spend money on entertainment, no Netflix in the house, nothing that isn't 100% necessary for surviving. I've always wanted to go back to work and make my own money again, but he's adamant he wants me home with the kids because wanting to work and needing to work are different. And I don't need to work, so I shouldn't. But I got tired of not having the luxury to pick myself up a bit of cake while I'm out buying groceries, so I decided to apply for some jobs that I can do from home. Long story short, I got a job 1 day a week working from home. He wasn't happy, but he couldn't really stop me, and having some cash to buy the kids and I things that we wanted was marvelous. But here is where I run into trouble. I have 2 under 3 and my almost 2-year-old is pretty chill. He'd sit and watch tractors on YouTube all day if I let him. He's happy to just hang around the house and play with pots and pans or read books or whatever. But my 3-year-old needs more stimulation. She knows that there's a big wide world out there and she wants to explore and learn. She's forever getting under my feet, asking a billion questions and distracting me from working on the one day I need to. So I started looking at care for her. I found a place with a few kids where she gets to learn and have fun. I enrolled her and she absolutely loves it. But because my husband earns so much, fees are extremely high to have her 1 day a week. By the time I pay her fees and the fuel to get her there, I'm barely making anything left over. She loves it so much and my husband agrees she should keep going, but he 100% refuses to help with the cost of sending her because, quote, "it was my choice to work." I feel like it wasn't my choice. I had to work to be able to live because while he's keeping us alive, we aren't living. I know I sound so spoiled, but I think you should either help pay at least some of her childcare fees or give us a small amount of spending money a month so we can go out and have fun. I know there's lots of things to do with kids without spending money, but I hate that we miss out on things because I don't have $5 to get them admission or a few dollars to buy them activities for home. It's really depressing and I don't know how to let him know that without causing an argument. What should I do? Now, Dave Ramsey from the Ramsey Show, who's like a finance guru, you can look him up online. He has this really fun statement that he says quite often, which is that there are a bunch of different dynamics that you can have in a marriage when it comes to money. There's one dynamic where one person is in charge of all of the money and the other person has absolutely nothing to do with it. There is another dynamic where both people pay pretty much, they split everything, you know, so they sit down, they say, okay, you're going to pay for rent, I'm going to pay for electricity, I'm going to pay for heating, and so on. They split the bills in that way, or they try to split everything 50-50, or however else they manage to do it. And then there's one where the couple pools everything together, and that's how they manage their finances. They're both equally as responsible for the finances and know exactly what's going on at all times. Now, the first dynamic of those three is the worst in many ways, and it is definitely the one where instead of it being a relationship of partners, equal partners who both have an equal stake and an equal say in the relationship and in their finances and with regards to their kids and with everything else that they're building together, instead you have basically one parent and one child. And so what the husband has done here is he has relegated his wife to the role of child. She doesn't get a say about any of the spending. He just decides what's happening with the money. She has no say when it comes to whether she wants to work or not. If she wants to work, which is what she did here, then he's like, okay, then you're doing this by yourself, and we're no longer in this together. And that's pretty awful. It's awful on pretty much every single level. I find it like, it almost boggles my mind that when she writes this, she says, hey, I think that he is like, she admires and respects him for being really dedicated to their future, for being a really good provider, for wanting to look after them. But honestly, he does not want to look after them. He wants to force them to live according to his own rules and according to his own decisions. And somehow the fact that she gave up her job to become a stay-at-home mom has made him completely insane. Just the level of controlling behavior that he is exhibiting here is just unbelievable. It would drive me crazy that he can save 2/3 of his paycheck every month and is completely unable to give her some spending money. Just that's just an awful human being. Like, he's simply an awful husband. I have no idea how he could think that that's okay. I have no idea how they had conversations about this where she said, okay, look, I need a job because I want spending money, because this is ridiculous. I can't afford $5 admission fee to take my kids to a museum. And he was like, well, yeah, too bad. That's just how we live right now, because even though we have the money and we have the means, then that's just too bad. Now, I understand that there is some element of this where planning for the future is really great, where keeping a good eye on your money is pretty great. Like, it's just understanding exactly where you're spending and how you're spending and why you're spending on particular things. Having this understanding of, okay, what's a need versus what's a want, and being able to say, okay, maybe we don't want to spend on too many wants this month for whatever reason. Like, all of that is fair enough. But fundamentally, if you're dependent on the money as well, like, he should respect you as his wife, OP. You should respect OP as his wife enough that she should have a say as well in what's happening with the money. The fact that she's a stay-at-home mom should not relegate her to the role of child in their relationship. It does not mean that she no longer has any say in anything, or that she shouldn't have any decision-making power about anything. So yes, as far as I'm concerned, the husband here is being completely obnoxiously over the top, overbearing, and just a really horrible person. That he wants her to still cover childcare. Again, despite having all the money, I would actually get it if they were very poor. If they were very poor, they're always pretty much on the edge, they never have any money to save, then I would be very understanding, because I understand that that's a very stressful situation. And in many ways you would say, hey, okay, he's taking his role as husband and provider for the family seriously, and that's pretty awesome. You know, that he's doing his best to try and make sure that the family survives whatever period of time that they have where things are really tight. But like this, it's just awful. It's just horrendous. So yes, I do think that you should cause an argument, and that fundamentally you should cause an argument that starts from, hey, the way that we are dealing with finances is not good. It should not be the case that a giant part of the relationship, i.e. 50% of the marriage, does not have a say in how money is being spent. And it's not okay to just decide to give her zero money and then expect her to deal with the kids with zero money. To just never have any money available whatsoever is awful. Like, it's just not, that's not a state that you can continue living in. And when she says, hey, he argues that it was her choice to work, and she says, well, actually, I wouldn't have chosen to go to work if I'd had money available, then that's just, does that not defeat the entire point of him working so hard and becoming such a high earner and trying really hard to provide for the family? Like, he's put her in a position where it doesn't matter how hard he works, because she still has to provide for herself and for her kids anyway. So it's just nonsensical. It's completely nonsensical. So yes, OP, if I were you, I would definitely sit down with him and say, this is just not, like, we need to get on the same page with regards to finances. However it is we make that happen. If he's really insistent on doing this kind of split, just, you don't need to save 2/3 of your paycheck every month. You can make that 50% of your paycheck, which is still amazing. Like, it's still pretty amazing to be able to save 50% of your paycheck, and then that extra 10% can be your spending money. Or he agrees that you work and that he's going to support you with work, And that means paying for childcare as needed as well. Like you need to be able to have a normal adult conversation about this, and you need to get on the same page with regards to finances in terms of what is your approach to finances, what is reasonable, what is not. You should have equal voting power when it comes to how much is saved, what you spend on, and so on. The fact that you're a stay-at-home mom should not mean that you no longer have a say in any of these things. So this is pretty horrendous, and I feel really bad for OP. The first comment says, no, you don't sound spoiled. Your husband sounds like a misogynistic piece of work. In my house, we don't have my money or your money. It's our money. And we both get a say in how we spend it. I'm the main breadwinner, but my husband contributes to our success as a family by taking care of the kids. He deserves every penny I own and then some. I can't even imagine telling him what he can or cannot buy. And then OP replies, I think this is where the line gets blurred with him, because he insists that it's our money, but he doesn't want me to waste it. He does buy his own things for his hobbies. He always asks if it's okay first, and I say yes, because in my mind he does work hard and it is his money, so I can't really say no. I'm qualified to work his job. That's how we met, but he doesn't want me to return to work. I tell him I'd trade positions in a heartbeat and work full time while he stays at home with the kids. We wouldn't lose a cent of income. The roles would just be reversed, but he says no, it's his job. So I guess you're right when you say that he's misogynistic. I just feel like I've been on this merry-go-round for years. We rarely fight, but when we do, it's about money, because I purchased something that we didn't need, or because I got upset that I can't purchase something I want after he's bought something for one of his hobbies. He says that I guilt trip him, and if I didn't want him to buy it, I should have said, but I didn't, because it's not worth the argument to me. I don't know how to get through to him. And here already you can kind of see where OP might be making mistakes. So number one, I think throwing around the term misogynistic is not necessary. It doesn't seem to me that he's sexist. I think the idea that he feels like it's his job to provide for the family is just like a normal masculine urge to want to be the provider for the family. Yes, there are some men who are happy to not do that, but the majority of men do feel that as a personal responsibility that they have to take on, just their burden. And so I think that that's normal. I would not say that, hey, okay, this means that there's that he's sexist in some kind of way. But this part, she says yes when he can buy things for his hobbies, and he refuses to let her buy things for her hobbies. And then when she does want to buy something, she's like, yeah, well, you bought that. So, and of course, fair enough. At that point, he also says, okay, but you agreed. If you agreed, then why are you throwing it at my face now? So from a communication perspective, essentially, she doesn't actually care about money expenditures all that much. She does want a sense of fairness in their relationship, where maybe he gets a budget of spending money and she gets a budget of spending money. But instead of sitting down, having a conversation on that level and saying, hey, okay, before we decide to spend money on anything, let's maybe agree that you can have 500 to spend on whatever you want, and I can have 500 to spend on whatever I want, and then it's equal and fair, and we're both on the same page, and we both keep an eye on it, and our spending doesn't go too far, and the money is not wasted, and so on. Instead of coming at it from this angle, they go around this awful circle where he wants to spend on particular things and she wants to spend on particular things, but she does not actually articulate that and say it to him in a way that gets through to him at all. When he says, I guilt trip him, and if I didn't want him to buy it, then I shouldn't have said it. Then I should have said it. And she's like, I didn't, because it's not worth the argument to me. It's like, yeah, but actually it is worth the argument to you, because what it means is that there is an unfairness in how you're treating each other and how the relationship is coming along. And that's a problem. Next person says, that was very hard to read. I admire your husband's hard work to provide for his family, but this seems like financial abuse. You deserve to have some spending money for yourself and the children without having to get a job for that alone. Since he makes much more money than you, it's only fair to pay for half the daycare costs. Simply have a conversation with him about this. Does your husband realize that if you divorce him, he'll have to pay you alimony in addition to child support for 2 children? Oh, God. Sometimes I really hate the things that people say in response to this. So in the comment, hey, it's only fair that he pays for half daycare costs. That 100% comes from a person who's like, yeah, we split everything 50-50 because 50-50 is fair. And actually, no, if he's the primary earner of the family and she wouldn't even have to work, if he just gave her some spending money, then he should suck it up and give her the spending money. And it's not fair at all to expect her to pay for the childcare, honestly, because she's working just so she can have a little bit of money for herself and for the kids. That's it's terrible. And then the next one is like, hey, does your husband realize that if you divorce him, he'll have to pay you alimony in addition to child support? It's like way to take your relationship and throw it down the toilet and then flush. Like, if this is the statement that you have to go into any financial discussion with, if that's how you approach it, then you've already lost. Then there's nothing that can salvage your marriage from that point onwards. Like, if it sounds like a threat, right? It's like, oh, hey, you know what would happen if we got divorced? Then suddenly you'd have to give me half of all of your money, and then you'd have to pay me, and you'd have to pay me for the kids as well. Like, that sounds so horrendously awful. That's definitely a way to destroy your relationships. That's not something that I would do. Next comment is, I watched my parents go through pretty much what you said. Money withholding is a form of emotional abuse and manipulation, so be careful, please. I understand where he's coming from, but there has to be some give. And OP replies, thank you. I'm trying to save a little just in case something happens. Savings that he doesn't know about, but I don't want to leave. I'm just asking for a little bit of give, like you said. I just don't know how to get the point across and make him realize that our days on this earth are numbered. What if we never make it to those fun times? That's also a pretty sad thought. I would want to be on the same page with my husband when it comes to things like saving for retirement and so on. Like, I think that should be a plan that you both sit down together and you say, okay, how much money do we think we need to invest or to save or whatever to prepare for retirement? At what age are we looking at? How many years of living like this will we be living like this for? I think that these are all normal conversations to have, and part of being able to plan for the future with your finances, which is fundamentally a good thing. But when it manifests itself like this, it seems to me that it connected with a ton of anxiety that he has about spending, wherever that anxiety came from. Possibly, she says she's been a stay-at-home mom for 3 years, and that's kind of around when the change happened. So possibly he reacted to becoming a father in this very militant way, where he suddenly realized that, hey, he needs to work a lot harder in order to continue providing for the family. And then that just spiraled out of control, and now he doesn't know how to bring it back. Either way, money, in my opinion, as much as possible, should be something that both parties are 100% involved in, have a good idea what's going on with, agree on the plans that they have with each other, make a budget together. There are a lot of steps that you can take to try and fix your relationship with money, but it cannot be one-sided. And this would be a completely untenable situation for me. Like, I would not be able to continue living under these types of circumstances if I wasn't able to resolve it. And that's a real shame, because it sounds like he's a great dad, and it sounds like he's a pretty good husband around everything else, which is unfortunate.